Nice.
Awesome, awesome. Well, guys, welcome back to another episode of I said the development journey, but I actually have a new name. Jerry, tell me what you think about it, or maybe it's still a work in progress after this part, right? The foundation,
The Foundation. Amazing. What a great name.
the
The
foundation. Okay,
Foundation.
yeah.
Welcome to the
So,
Foundation.
welcome to the foundation, guys. So, episode two. But episode one of the foundation. This is
Yes,
our
and
second podcast episode, but this is the first episode.
on this episode, we're going to be talking about leadership.
Right. There's free do the whole podcast.
Yes. Or let's do it anime style. In the last episode.
In the last episode, we spoke about leadership. In
And
this
in this episode, leadership again.
episode,
Guess the topic. Leadership.
Leadership 2.0. So this episode, I do want to go over some important subject that I think some of us as entrepreneurs out there do struggle with, which is moving the needle.
Yes,
Um,
moving the needle.
moving the
So
needle.
doing the important work, there's so much busy work that you can do that does not move the needle. So, I could speak on my process. I'm sure your process is different, but what I like to do is I like to write things out. What are the big needle movers in the business? Like what actually drives the business forward? What grows the business?
Mhm.
And so if you could isolate that and just focus on the needle moving activities, I think your business is going to grow. So for myself in the agency space, the biggest needle movers are two things. It's generating sales calls and doing sales calls. Those are the only two, to be
And
honest.
then to explain to our audience that let's say we're a new entrepreneur and we are starting this business thing, brief explanation of what moving the needle actually means.
So moving the needle, great question. So it's when you have a needle and then you simply move it. So imagine a needle on a desk and you push it. That's moving the needle.
Yeah, and I
Um,
also like to think about it on a practical sense as everybody's familiar with the scale, right? So, what can you, this putting something on the scale that actually moves that little needle on the scale. We can put a marble, depending on what type of scale it is, we can put a marble on there and it won't actually do anything,
mhm,
right? We can
yeah,
put feathers and all these things. We know it actually takes effort to do what we're doing, and it takes effort to put it on the scale, but it's not actually moving the needle. So I didn't want to clarify that moving the needle is doing activities that will actually produce a result in our organization.
exactly, exactly. Well said, Richard. So Mark Dama talks a lot about this, your needlework. So needlework is stuff that actually grows the business. So, there's maintenance work, things like, HR, things like, responding to your email, things like, maybe it's a new website, like it's a lot of little tasks. And those kinds of things don't move the needle, right? Like let's say you run an advertising business. Again, let's say you run a little Facebook or YouTube ads agency. Your goal is to get more business, is to grow the business. So a lot of times you have to diagnose the bottleneck and decide or at least come to the conclusion that what are the most important activities in the business. Should it be doing uh, 100 outreaches on Facebook? Should it be 25 outreach messages on LinkedIn per day? Should it be going door to door? Should it be XYZ, right? So every business is different. So write out, what is it going to take to grow the business? Like if I could solve one thing in the business, what could it be? Right. And that changes depending on where you are on your entrepreneurial journey. It could be that the needle work is I need to build a new webinar presentation to sell my product. It could be that I have to, send thousands of cold emails. It could be creating that system. Or let's say let's say the needle work is actually I need to hire another sales guy so that I can get off of sales calls and I could record more content and do more marketing. So the needlework is the important work that actually drives the business forward. If the goal is to grow the business, what steps are the most important in order to do that? So, for me, it's outreach, cold outreach. It could be also for somebody else doing marketing, posting content. It could be scripting out emails. It could be, copywriting. So that way you can get more sales for it. Every business is this special snowflake of what are the most important things that you need to do to grow the business? It could be that you have no email sending, right? So the needlework should be done in the morning when you're most focused, I think.
Mhm.
But essentially, the needlework is the important work that is actually going to drive the business forward. It's going to grow the business, get more sales, add to your credibility. What do you think, Richard? What's the needlework for Dingle Agency?
No, well said. So for marketing, as you said, is every industry is different. For a life insurance agency, as such as the Dingle agency, I believe needlework is directly tied to our revenue. So anything that is going to actually affect our earnings and revenue. So for us, that would be those sales calls that you talked about. Sales calls for us looks a little bit different than a marketing sales call, or how those sales calls are generating. So prospecting for us looks a little different than prospecting for marketing. I feel like for us, we do more phone call prospecting, if that makes sense, versus
So cold
outreaches.
calls,
Yeah, so cold calls, or warm calls, but
warm
it's
calls.
outbounding calls, right? Whereas we might, from what you were explaining, you might reach out on Facebook in the marketing sector and set up the whole appointment and the call from Facebook. That can happen, yes, on a life insurance agency, but I feel like that's when you are really set a social media presence for your agency. The unique thing about life insurance agencies is without a social media presence, without any kind of online presence, you can still be a multi-million dollar agency per year just on the sheer fact of, this structured kind of where our foundation has already been made through cold calling and maybe lead buying and all these other different areas that people have tested, and they actually have systems on how you need to work those leads.
Hmm.
Is it hard in some
Nurturing the
are,
leads,
yeah, some are harder than some, of course, right?
of
But
course.
there is a system of working the leads. So no matter what avenue you're in, but one thing we would say, life insurance, a lot of outbound. Yes, you have those people that are knocking down the door looking for life insurance, but one, a lot of times they already have issues going on, so it's hard to get them qualified. The ones that are knocking and asking about life insurance are generally the sick people.
Hmm.
Two, everybody wants those people, so now you're fighting for that
Yes.
same space.
Now you're fighting for keywords on Google Ads.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday, right? So just all those things. So moving the needle activity for us is making those outbound calls, and it's the thing that agents like to do the least. Well,
Yeah,
we
no
find.
one likes doing colds. It's the same
Yeah.
with appointment setters. So in the ad space, it's quite easy to generate a lead. The
Hmm.
difficulty is in converting the lead, and what that involves is calling the lead. You
Call
know,
it the lead.
so
Yes.
within 5 minutes, speed to lead, the the chances of them answering the phone if you call them within 5 minutes that the lead is generated. So as soon as they opt in to a form, within 5 minutes, that's the sweet spot of them being able to, there's a high likelihood that they're going to answer if you call within five
Hmm.
minutes. So, and the goal of the appointment setter is whenever a lead is generated, you have to book 2 to 4 sales calls per day. Here's the CRM. Here's thousands of leads, and they get fresh leads every single day. Let's say 30 to 40 leads, new leads every day. So their goal is to book meetings, right? But imagine calling 150, doing 150 dials per day, and not just that, but double dialing. That's when you call, they don't answer, and
Yes.
you
Yeah.
hang up
Yeah.
and call
Absolutely.
again because they're more likely to answer, and
Right.
you break
Absolutely.
through the Apple do not disturb thing because you called twice. So that's the
Right.
reason people do that. So No one likes doing that work. It's very tedious, you know. That's why appointment setting is an intro level sales job. So it's a lot of times the needle work is the painful work that people don't want to do, but that's the stuff that actually gives you that competitive advantage. The stuff that people don't actually want to do, that's your competitive edge, you know.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
needlework, you know. It's
Yeah,
doing hard things like
yeah.
like 100 outreaches on Facebook, you know,
Mhm.
100 DM outreaches, and you're only gonna, and your response rate might be trash. Your pickup rate might be trash, you know, when you're doing dials. But that's the work. That's what it takes a lot of times. That's the needlework.
Yeah, and I did agree with something you said is the needlework needs to be done in the morning. I would say morning to late afternoon. So for an agency owner, it's a little bit different than a regular life insurance agent, right? Life insurance agent, your needlework is the re-prospecting your clients, having the sales calls themselves, and actually writing the policy, getting those submitted, right? Those I would say the most three important activities when it comes to needlework. For agency owners, a little bit different because for us, our sales team size is really what breeds revenue for an agency, right? How many active agents do you have writing business? And so recruiting agents, making those calls to reach out to agents that you need to get on board with your team, increase your team size, that's needlework. And also the agency owner, if you're still writing business and reaching out to clients as well, that's doing that as
Yeah,
well. You know, so you
you,
need
you
a
bring up
business
a good
owner
point.
and an agent.
Yeah, so like the needlework changes. So as you said, like if you're a lone agent, you know, and it's just you, the needlework is talking to people and signing deals. But then after a certain level, the needlework, if you want to grow the business, the needlework is actually hiring, like you said. And
Mhm.
it's the same a lot of times for, you know, for agencies. You know, a lot of times they're a one-man show. And then once they've maxed out like themselves, and they need to, you know, a higher leverage activity for them is the same thing. It's going to be hiring, you know, so that way they can focus on, you know, on other things, on growing the business, like, you know, if hiring somebody to book you calls. So, you know, for an agency, it's going to be like, okay, generating sales calls and then jumping on sales calls. And then once you've maxed out your time in that, the needlework is hiring somebody to book you calls. So that way only you do the sales calls and you're getting sales calls generated for you, you know, from
Mhm.
a lead source that you've already, you know, pretty much mastered. And so that way somebody else can help you do that. And then after that, it's going to be okay. Now I outsourced the lead generation aspect, the booking calls aspect. Now I'm going to, you know, hire my first sales guy. Now you have a setter, now you have a closer. Now your job is to provide them leads and provide them opportunities, you know, using the frameworks that you already worked out. So the needlework changes, you know, and let's say you have your team. Now the needlework is, oh, well, now I need more traffic. Now I need to, you know, run ads. Oh, my funnel sucks. Okay, now the needlework is I need to create a new BSL funnel. Now the needlework is I need to create XYZ system, right?
Mhm.
Like the needlework changes, so it's important to evaluate like what's the most important thing. If I
Yeah,
could fix one thing in the business, and that if I could do one thing in the business that makes everything else irrelevant, what's that one thing? And that thing is going to change depending on where you are in the business.
yeah, absolutely. Well said. Now, every business faces periodic stagnation. Um, can you share a time, like as an agency owner of a marketing agency, can you share a time or where you've plateaued, or what's your latest plateau, and steps you're taking to overcome that, or steps you took to overcome?
Oh my gosh, great question. I wasn't prepared for this one. It's a juicy one. So I've gone through various periods of stagnation. You know, if you're not careful, you could fall into stagnation. So Alex Ramosi talks about getting enjoyment from the work, but finding different ways of of getting like enjoyment from the work. Like if you can get enjoyment in the long-term aspect, then like finding that enjoyment, like for example, the tasks that that you might end up doing are going to vary, right? And if you don't get enjoyment from the current needle moving task, then you're going to end up in a plateau.
Hmm.
So Alex Ramosi talks about like enjoying, like finding most ways to enjoy the work, right? And that's how you avoid stagnation. Like continually looking at the forest from the trees is the lesson that I got from Alex to avoid stagnation because I'm sure you felt this too, where you reach a certain level and then you feel, oh, this feels good. I can take my foot off the gas for a while.
Hmm.
I'll take, I'll work less hard. Maybe it's not even voluntary, or maybe it's not even like, maybe it's not an action that you're actively taking, but you fall into it because you get lazy, let's say.
Hmm.
So that's happened to me. And whenever you do take your foot off the gas, if you're not growing, you're falling, you're
Yeah,
digressing, you're
absolutely,
stagnating.
absolutely. I mean,
So it could hit you like a ton of bricks, like, oh shit, I just lost like two clients this month, or now I'm down to this many clients, and what happened? I wasn't focused, is what it was.
right, yeah. I think stagnation is the enemy of all businesses, right? A business is designed to grow or expand. If it's not, then like you said, it is very much well counted as being regressing. I think that for us as an agency owner in just the life insurance industry, stagnation happens quite often. Because, like you said, taking your foot off the gas, I see in my years of being an agency owner, I've seen that so many times with agents. You write a policy and that pays your bills for the month, and you're like, oh man, I'm feeling good. Let me take 2 days off or whatever. And now it takes you 5 days to replace that 2 days that you just took off, right? Because the
Yeah,
law of momentum, right? I forgot
you
what
lose momentum. That's right.
yes, right. Object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by an outside force, right? So you are the outside force because you stopped what you was doing, right? Right at this point. So we see that a lot in insurance industry, and I think that based on what you said with Alex Mimosa, what he says about finding joy in what you do, I think that's incredible. Now, I would take it a step further and say that we have to work for a we have to work for a purpose. How you find joy in what you do is having a purpose in what you do, right? And God definitely helps with that purpose, right? Okay, I'm not working just for money, so I don't have to, "Oh, I'm getting more money. Let me be happy because I'm getting more money." That's a hard road to travel, right? But I'm working for a lot bigger goal. Like for me, I want to change the landscape of Jamaica, and every policy, every person educate on finances, I'm getting one step closer to that. Every Jamaican person I talk to and educate them on finances, I'm getting one step closer to that. Right? Is it
Mhm.
going to change to the point where they're one of Japan. They're the most prosperous small island in the world. I don't know. It would be awesome if it did, but I'm also accepting that it might not happen. So I just keep pressing forward.
So
Knowing
your ultimate goal is to save Jamaica,
save Jamaica.
make Jamaica great again.
Make it great again. For lack of a better term, I would say, just make them financially independent. Be like Jamaica is financially dependent on the government, the rest of the world, and so I mean, most of our resource income comes from tourism, which is very, very terrible, right, for any
Yeah,
nation.
there's a lot of Latin American countries where where tourism is their only source of income. In fact, when I was in Guatemala, I was traveling to these places and I was talking to the youths there, the young people, and I'd get into a conversation. They'd tell me, "Oh, I'm in college. I'm studying tourism." I'm like, "Oh, why? Why are you studying tourism?" You know, "Oh, well, this is the only way. This is the only money-making thing in the economy. I don't have any other choice." I was like, "Oh my God, wow, it's different." you know, being born in a third world country. like
Yeah.
Guatemala. You know,
Yeah.
like, and it's
It's just
also very
being
short-sighted
behind.
too. You know,
Yeah,
you're
it's
you're
behind
you're
on
thinking about the short
time.
term.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're behind on the times. That's really what a third world country is. I mean, everything in Jamaica was 20 years behind the United States or more when I was growing up.
Yeah, their
So,
anime too. I'm just kidding.
I mean, even the anime, honestly, I'm talking even the TV shows was a little bit like
Yeah, damn.
they're very behind. So, like, I know Days of Our Lives. I don't think anybody else my age know what Days of Our Lives is. That's what our when I came over here, the kids were like, "That's what our parents used to watch." Like,
Days of Our
what
Lives. Are you talking about the telenovela?
the yeah the soap opera. Like a
Yeah.
lot of those soap operas was on reruns in Jamaica at the time. So, but I said that to say those small third world countries are generally behind in they're thinking from the industrial age when we've since left the industrial age. So they're thinking, oh, this tourism zone thing we can provide because we don't have any materials to export. We don't need to export material.
Yeah, nothing to they don't have anything to export.
Right, but this is the
Right.
data age. You don't need anything to export. Look at Japan. Japan is technology is what it
It export
thrives
services. Actually, they're a great manufacturer too, Japan.
on.
Like
Yes.
some of the great car manufacturers came out of Japan.
Yes, absolutely. So, being a small island is no excuse to being, you know, behind on economically behind everyone else in the world. It's
Yeah.
really not an
Well,
excuse, and not
what's
in this
what's
day and age.
Jamaica's birth rate?
I'm sure it's low. It seems high because everybody seems like they have 10 kids, but but
I
I'm
mean, it's
sure
because
it's
the reason I
low.
say is because Japan has like the second lowest birth rate on Earth. So in 100 years, 93% of the population will be wiped out. So like,
Yeah, they're
for
actually
all
calling
the
for.
glory of industrialization and first world economy, blah blah blah. Like I think they're the third or fourth biggest economy on Earth. I could be wrong on that,
Right.
but there are people that's going away, unfortunately. Like, I don't know what it's like in Jamaica, but if they industrialize, like, which would you rather have? Would you rather have like an industrial Jamaica with 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 93% of the population evaporated, gone in 100 years? Or would you have like a people that still exist 100 years from now? That are, maybe they're not living in squalor, but it's not as advanced as a first world economy like the US.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a tough one because there's so many things to think about. Are you existing when you are struggling, when your nation is struggling? Is that an existence that you even want to be a part of? And at the same time,
Well, that's true. Good point.
yeah, I mean the Bible does talk about just that same question that we have of us being able to provide for our families and being able to, what is really living, right? So in that notion, I would say I'll probably enjoy the words less, and less of us, but we're more prosperous. That's a life worth living. There is strength in numbers if it's used right.
Hmm.
Look at China. They have strength in numbers, but China, the people might need some help, but the country itself is fairly prosperous, right? The people might not have the rights and the things that they need to experience and enjoy that prosper that their nation is getting.
Yeah, they're missing some rights, but a lot, millions and millions have come out of poverty, thankfully. So like they're kind of the best of both worlds. There's a ton of people and they're prospering. Although, there's a they're seeing a demographic collapse because of the one child policy. They're seeing the effects now. So
Oh
in
yeah,
100 years, their population is gonna look way different than,
way different. Yeah,
1.4
absolutely.
billion right now, or however many people live in China right now.
Yeah, yeah, and it's pretty high, right?
Yeah.
Now,
And
um,
it's very lopsided towards men. There's more men in China because of the one child policy. People preferred, having boys than girls. So there's 300 million more men than women in China.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
thus making the demographic collapse even worse.
that's insane. That gotta suck. That's why they're kind of angry.
Sausage fest is what it is.
That's why the country is like a little angry. There's nothing but testosterone floating around there. Like
Yes.
that
And
sucks.
in order to, in order to, like, if you're a female in China, you're looking for a guy with, that is the most set up possible, right? So it's very competitive. You have to own houses, at the minimum to get married. You have,
Like
like, you got to show that you're our top notch, if you're going to get
how
married.
hard is it to find a female in China? That is crazy. Like I would rather
Well, I'm sure it's just as difficult, if not more so, than here, right? Like you're still competing against all the other males vying for your attention, right? Vying
to
for,
get
you know,
more males. There's not
yes,
you can't even get a what's the word? You can't even settle for a female. Like normally here, you can say, okay, that's not the female I want, but there, that's what's left over. I'm going to settle because there's so many females. There's more of them than us, so there
well,
may be.
here there's not that many more females than males in the U.S. Like I'm sure it's like within a small percent, a single digit percentage. Like I have heard that there's more females in the U.S., but I'm sure it's not like, oh, there's 10% more females. I'm sure
No,
it's like
I've
1 to 5% more females. I could be wrong on that, but
yeah,
uh,
I've definitely not looked it up. I just heard that there's more females in the U.S. than males, of course. With that being said, now you gotta, it's hard to get females. I'm glad I'm married.
it has, I have seen some success, on Bumble. Bumble's really good. Hinge is really good. Uh, but it's it's always an upward struggle if all you're doing is you're using apps, because 80% of the women on apps go for 20% of the men on apps. So you have to be real good at marketing with your profile, with the picture that you're posting, with your bio that so there's a whole strategy to it. And so I was able to generate one date a week from maybe an hour a day on the apps. uh, but if I'm trying to find that right person that, that checks all my boxes or whatever, or that there's chemistry with, it is quite time consuming to find yourself that ideal partner. But it's just like anything else, like how many people did you talk to? People are like, oh, I haven't been able to, oh, I can't find a girlfriend, I can't find a wife, etc. Okay, well, how many dates have you been on? Oh, two. Oh, well, you haven't been trying very hard. You know what I mean? It's like you need more repetition. It's like cold calling. You know what I mean? If you do
Yeah.
100 cold calls a day for a month, oh, you're gonna get so good at doing cold calls. It's the same thing with dates. Oh, well, how many dates have you been on? Oh, three. Oh, in the last 6 months. Oh, try harder, do more dates. You'll
Yeah,
find that right person.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
gotta keep working it. Once you have a vision in mind of who you're searching for, I feel like people who are ready to get married fast. You know what I mean? Because they already know what they're looking for. They already know what they want. They have a vision in mind. And so just another person, has to step into that vision, that
Mhm.
you've vetted, of course.
Yeah, you
But
have a
yeah,
standard and be
if you know what a good
earn on your
sales call
standard.
looks like, you're going to, know exactly like how to do a good sales call. You know what I mean? Like if you've done a sales call 1,000 times, it just becomes natural and you know what you're looking for. You know what a good sales call looks like. And so if you've been on a lot of dates, you know what a good wife candidate looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, on the topic of moving the needle on trying to get married, the needle, the object, the outcome is getting married. Oh, you got to be on dates. That's moving. That's the
That's
moving
right. Yes. Like if your
part,
goal is to
right?
get
You got
married and have, 4 kids, let's say, like that's moving the needle. So moving the needle is doing your daily hinge outreach
yeah,
or you doing your
absolutely.
daily Bumble swipes. And I've even seen people outsource this. Like,
Outsource it.
yes, they have an
That's
appointment setter
literally.
in the dating application, that can send that is all their job is to swipe on cute girls and send interesting messages to the girls and
How
get a
much do these
conversation going and
how
book
much do these
dates.
people getting paid? What kind of revenue we expect from a job like that?
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't ask, oh, what's your pay structure for
Right.
for the date setter?
That's
Uh,
hilarious. Uh,
but I'm pretty sure, it's just sending messages. So an appointment setter, they typically
mhm.
make, I don't know, you could pay an appointment setter a base of 500 to 800 and then a commission off of closed deals. But they're also KPI'd on show rate too. And there's other things they have to do, like to confirm the appointment, like, hey, are you going to be there tomorrow for the sales call? Okay, cool. Not like that, but there's I'd say between 500 and 1,000. You could pay the date appointment setter to just you could buy a phone number, by the way, and just you use that phone number on Hinge, and then
Right.
just have them log in to the Hinge profile or Bumble
Mhm.
profile, and then they could start swiping and
Right, right, right.
stirring up interesting conversations using ChatGPT, of course. Because I always use ChatGPT for inspiration for funny and interesting uh, messages to send to
Yeah.
prospects.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I mean, it's crazy that people are paying for everything these days. Now, in the digital marketing world, how do you kind of measure what activities or determine your success in moving the needle for yourself and even your clients? How do you determine, you're successfully moving the needle?
Great question. So for agency clients, for me, moving the needle, like the moving the needle is, ultimately the client cares the most about sales.
Mhm.
So, okay, how many sales did we get this month, from our marketing? Oh, we ended up with 5 sales. And you might think that's trash, but a lot of times, like, these are high ticket
Well,
sales
none of
for
the,
clients. So the
yeah, yeah,
clients are selling 5K, 10K, 15K things. So if we get 3 sales of 5K, that's still 15K in sales for the client, and the client, paid me less than 15K
right,
plus,
right. It's
plus the
also
ads.
about
So it's
making a
good. So
profit.
in terms
Yeah.
of like, oh, Jerry, working with Jerry is actually making me a lot of money. So, the needle movers for clients is like sales. How many sales did we get? But it's also important to paint a picture of what the future looks like for clients. So, business and dating is very similar. So, with a client, they like it doesn't matter what you've done in the past for a client. It matters what you're going to be able to do for them in the future. That's the
Mhm.
reason why they're going to stay with you. And it's the same for females. Like females, you could get like it doesn't matter what you've done to for a woman. Like a lot of men say, "Oh, but I've done so much for her. Like I bought her this, and I took her here. I've done so much for her in the past." Well, none of that matters to a woman. It matters, it's great and all, but the reason she'll stay with you is because of a future benefit. What kind of future benefit am I going to get by staying with Jerry or by being with Jerry? Oh, Jerry has plans that we're going to have a big, 4 kids in our family. Oh, Jerry has plans where we're going to go to Rome. Or Jerry has plans where X, Y, Z, right? If a man has no plan with a woman, then what is the incentive for a woman to stay with that man? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It's the
no,
same. It's
absolutely.
the same thing with clients. Moving the needle for a client is going to be okay. You know, this is the beginning of Q3, Mr. Client. Our goal for Q3, our goal for Q3 is this many sales. So, an increased number of sales than the previous quarter. And this is how we're going to do it. We recommend to increase ad spend by this much, and we're going to set up SMS and email sending. You know, so painting a picture of what the future is going to look like is a really good needle mover for a client. So sometimes you'll work with clients that have no idea. They don't have any goals. Yeah, I'll ask them, okay, do you have any specific goals for Q3? No, not really. Things are going pretty good. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. So you have to help the client, you know, with the needle moving tasks. It's like, okay, Mr. Client, so we had, let's say we had 15 sales last quarter. let's shoot for 20 sales this quarter, and that would mean that we have to increase ad spend by this much.
Mhm.
And it looks like your sales team's not going to be able to handle another 100 calls on the calendar. So the needle moving thing is we have to hire a new sales guy. And
Right,
then so you got to paint that picture for the client. Just like you have to
right.
paint it for a female, you have to paint it
Mhm.
for the client.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I definitely agree. I mean, us, we work more so directly with our clients and offering protections and different things. But one of one of the policy or strategies that we do is we work with a lot of CPAs that are looking to use life insurance as a tax strategy for their business owners that they're filing taxes for and things like that because you can use it as a form of a tax strategy to keep your money in your pocket and not the IRS's pocket. Right.
Amen, brother.
So,
Abolish the IRS.
absolutely. So with that, we have a lot of CPAs, and that's where they will kind of do the same thing as instruct their client on those needle moving tasks. Hey, Mr. Prospect, we did this strategy, we maxed out our IRAs, we maxed out our Roth IRAs, we maxed out our contribution over here. Let's do something else in order to again dip your taxes a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
So
And like the clients, like you have to outline exactly how much money you made them, exactly how much money you saved them. Like you got to paint it in real clear terms of like of the needle moving things. Like,
yeah,
hey, Mr. Client, today, this month we made, 20 grand more for your business.
yeah,
And or let's say if you're your tax guy, oh, Mr. Client, we saved you 5,000 on your taxes,
yeah.
Mr. Client, we did like on my Walmart app, whenever I order groceries, it says, "Hey, Jerry, this month you saved $150 so far on groceries just from doing this from Walmart Plus." I'm like, and then Spotify too, like hours saved, time saved. Sometimes you'll see websites do that. Like, if you're on a productivity tool, it'll say, "Hey, you saved 10 hours of business meetings this month by using Fathom." Like, oh, that's awesome.
Mhm.
You know, so like you have to you show your customer the needle moving things that the benefit the benefits, right, of that's the needle moving things for businesses. How much money did you make your clients? um how many hours did you save? How much, you know like, it's different for every business, but uh you know you to paint those needle movers for your client, not just for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely important. Painting the picture is super important. Now, how does faith kind of come into that? Speaking of moving the needle, how does it kind of
Mm,
influence your approach and growth and kind of the innovations or the things you decide to do in order to help move those needles in your business?
okay, great question. I'm actually curious to hear your answer, Richard.
I mean, there's definitely some biblical principles that we use in the agency, but the one thing I would say is we prep our agents first and foremost. We prep our agents' faith. If you're an entrepreneur now. I don't know. And it seems like you work with in your agency a lot of your partners are 1099, right? They come on 1099. They assist you with a particular task and they go. So we're not necessarily coming in to collect an hourly paycheck. And even if we were collecting an hourly paycheck, we're still going to prep you on the, the terms of faith because we do have some interns starting this summer, right? So
So you have terms of service, and then terms of employment, terms of faith.
yes, terms of faith. You must have belief, one, in the product that we're offering, that we can actually transform and change lives, right? Our motto is that love is not what it says, it's what it does. We're transforming your future, we're transforming your family's future. So having that faith that we can transform the future is super important. having the faith in the product and having the faith in yourself, your ability to do so. So that's one. And then when it comes to moving the needle, you might do a task and then you don't see the needle get moved right away. You might, start lifting weights and you're not gaining muscle mass the next day. You didn't wait. You lift weights today. Oh man, I feel so nice. I went to the gym and I lift up, so many. I did the bench press and I go in the mirror and I'm like, my chest don't look any bigger. You might not see that today. So no, having faith that you are doing the right activity, you just need repetition before we see results. Right.
Hmm.
That's where we preach a lot of that too. For lack of a better term, we say preach. Preach that to the agents and make sure they're on board with that. If someone is fighting against having faith and belief in the product and themselves and in the ability to succeed in this industry, I don't think that's a person you need in your organization.
Hmm.
Right? They are going to find any reason not to believe they can succeed. I want someone that's looking for a
Yeah,
reason.
that's a loser mentality.
Yeah, ET Eric Thomas, he says, winners win, losers lose.
Yeah,
It- it-
winners always find a way to ROI.
yes,
Um, and what's interesting is that you mentioned belief in the product. It's so important for salespeople to have belief in what they're selling because they're having the same conversation hundreds of times, dozens of times per day, even. And if they don't believe in what they're selling, people will be able to smell and pick up on that. Like, oh, Jerry doesn't really believe that, XYZ is the best way to make money in my agency. And, belief in the product isn't just made by telling them that you have to believe in this product. Belief in the product is made by showering your salespeople in client results. So
thank you.
at the beginning of every sales meeting, the best practice is to share a personal win or a client win, and you sometimes even bringing on a client to that sales meeting and saying that, hey, my name is Jerry and I started, I was closed by Richard over here. And I'm so glad he did because I made, 20 grand in my business. So thank you, Richard, for closing me. And like, showering your salespeople in the client results is going to increase their conviction in the product.
Yeah,
Conviction isn't something that can just be, told to people. Like, Richard, I need you to have conviction that YouTube ads are the best advertising, thing to grow your business.
right.
So it so a lot of that conviction comes with time and it comes with like watching testimonials,
Hmm.
watching, you closing prospects if you want to have conviction that you're a good salesperson.
Hmm.
Like it comes with time, that conviction in the product. It is important. Like you can't have your salespeople badmouth the product, but it's important to like reinforce that what you're to your salespeople that what you're selling is great. It's the best stuff, you know, and like the reason conviction sells, like the people knocking on doors, converting people to Mormonism or I think it's called proselytization, right?
Hmm.
Like when you're converting people to a new religion, they're doing all that hard work because they believe they're saving people's souls. They have such conviction that what they're doing is the best and right thing that that transfers to the prospect and they're more likely to buy your product to go with the religion you're pitching or whatever. So like conviction is so important to salespeople. So I really agree with what you said there, that conviction is super important. um, Actually, like whenever I hire a appointment setter, I go through values with them. I want them to have these specific values. I even have it pulled up here,
Yeah.
and I go through it with them. So this is what I want you to have: people skills, integrity, leadership, and I explain each one, and I ask, okay, is this making sense, Richard? Integrity, be someone who follows through with what they say. Does that sound like, does that resonate with you? Oh yeah, yeah. So you're reinforcing those things.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That does make a lot of sense. And I think, like you said, conviction is super important, and passion about, with conviction comes passion. You know, you're passionate about your product. Well, you believe in your product. The prospect is not buying the product. A lot of people think the prospect is buying what the product can do for them, right? And
Exactly.
that's the most basic part of sales, right? Prospect is buying what the product can do for them. The thing is, they don't know what the product can do for them.
Yeah, only,
Honestly,
oh yeah, exactly.
honestly, you don't even know what the product can do for them. You believe in what the product can do for them, and they believe based on how much you believe in that product. They're going to believe. So you're showing that belief. It's, we used to say at our old agency, sales is a transfer of belief, right? You're transferring that strong belief you have onto the client. You're not, trying to convince them to believe in it, but you're transferring the belief that you do have, and that is transferring to them. And they're like, "Oh man, Jerry has so much passion about YouTube ads. Like I definitely think that I can see this transforming my business because look at how he talks. Not just because YouTube ads is next best thing, because of how Jerry talks about it. I know he's going to give me his very best, and he has to be the best in the game. So with that, I'm gonna go with Jerry and get some YouTube ads established,
Amazing. Let's get you started.
right? Yeah. So,
Where can
um,
I send the pay link?
yeah,
Where I'll send the invoice right away.
yeah,
Wait,
absolutely.
when do you want to book your onboarding call?
Yeah, and then
Like future pacing.
it's cakewalk from there. You know, when you have that passion is where it all starts. When you have that passion, you transfer that belief. Your client get passionate about it. They're happy about the sale they just made. You know, when you, I don't know if you've ever had a car and a guy buy a car, a guy was so excited about the car, you're like, you're on cloud nine for the next, in 5 months you have the car.
It's so true. Yeah, it happened. It happened, relatively recently too. Like, oh,
Okay.
this is amazing. I'm the best. My car's the best.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a Tesla
So much
owner.
pride.
Um, and I went to the test. One thing I love about the Tesla store, one, they're super passionate about Teslas, right? I think no, all of them there had Teslas, right? They all were Tesla owners. If I think one guy might have not been, he was new, but he was pretty much bringing home the car every night. Like, they have a demo car they get to bring home, and it was
Oh,
like,
that's
oh,
cool.
yeah. So they're also not paid commission. Teslas
Oh, I
don't
didn't
pay
know that.
commission. They pay them hourly. So now they're not having to do it for the money. They're actually doing it, one, because they're getting paid good. Two, whether they sell the car or not, they're getting paid. Three, they actually believe in that they can change the planet and change the bread. One thing about Elon Musk, he actually believes that Tesla is going to change the planet's pollution, right? However we feel about that, however the rest of the world feels about that, it doesn't matter. He believes it, right? And that's how you need to feel about your product in order to be successful in sales.
Yes. The mission statement is so important, by the way. So like the mission statement of Tesla is to like accelerate the world's transition to renewable energy. That's the mission that people are so passionate about, that people will flock to your business because they're excited to be part of something big. It's the
Yes.
same with all of Elon Musk's companies. Like if you look at SpaceX, their goal is to colonize the stars, right? It's to make humans, it's to make mankind interplanetary, right? That's such a big mission that people will work super hard. People will cross the ocean, cross mountains because
Hmm.
they really believe in a big, beautiful mission like that. So like it's so important. And notice how the mission statement isn't we're going to build we're going to save people money on cars, right? No one can get really passionate about,
Right, right.
little wimpy limp, mission statement like that. But when the mission statement is big enough to encompass like something big and beautiful, uh, people are gonna flock to it like bears to honey, people want to be a part of something real big and beautiful. People want to love the work that they do. And if they feel like that their work is contributing to something, to a big beautiful idea, like advancing the transition to sustainable energy, then you're going to get top talent that love to work, that love what they're doing because they know that they're making a difference. They know that their work is meaningful. Uh, so it's super important. Do you have a mission statement at Dingle Agency?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, our mission is to transform the future through successful wealth transfer and financial protection.
That's wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. So, it's something that's super passionate about. We're super passionate about. One of our slogans is "Love is not what it says, it's what it does." It's just something my
Love is not what it says, it's what it does.
yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I got that from my mom. It's not an original. I think it's an original for her, though. It's something that she used to
Tra-
say all the time.
Miss Dingle trademark.
Yeah, trademark, right? Uh,
All rights reserved.
yeah, no, absolutely. So,
Uh,
in reflection, what would say, what are some of the things, or what is the biggest thing that has shaped your perspective on success? Like, how has your journey shaped your perspective on success? What is success? And what are you kind of most excited about for the future?
let's see. Um, the future is very exciting. There's so many things I'm excited about, not just in my business, but like in the world and on Earth.
Hmm.
So, every day is exciting. There's always something new to learn and be excited about. So what about you? Is there something that you're super excited about?
Yeah, there is that, like you said, there's a lot to be excited about. I am excited about the world of finance and where the world is going. I think more people are becoming increasingly aware of how important financial literacy is.
Yes, yes. People are being red pilled on the importance of finance.
Yeah, and knowing finance and not just, oh, I make money, I spend money.
Exactly.
Yeah, and understanding how to perpetually build a financial future, whether it be for yourself and for generations to come, right? So yeah, I'm excited for where direction of the United States and where we're going in that. And as well, I'm excited for AI. I can talk about the subject for
Me
yeah,
too.
next
Love
100
AI.
years. I'm excited for where AI is actually taking us. Speaking of moving the needle, there's so many tasks now we can do with AI that focusing more on those needle moving tasks has become a lot easier, a lot simpler for
Most
business
definitely.
owners. So
Yeah.
if you don't get with AI now, you're going to get left behind because while you're still doing everything manually, you have another person that is more focused on doing more needle moving tasks and it's about to blow you out of the water because they're getting
Yes.
more done.
Yes, AI makes you a super productive human. Like all your tasks become supercharged with AI.
Yes,
Like if you're a
I,
marketer in any industry, whatever industry that you're in, AI will make you a supercharged human being.
yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're having an expert assistant. That's what, you have
Yes, an expert in all of human knowledge.
yes, yes, which is really, really exciting to see where it's going to go and then all the changes that's going to happen on that in that industry and in that market. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm excited about for the future.
Okay, love it, love it. What do you think, Richard? Should we wrap up?
Yes, sir. So, guys, as always, we thank you for joining us on another episode of The
The
Foundation.
foundation.
Thank you for joining us. And we're super excited to keep delivering these podcasts. So please definitely leave comments, leave, just your thoughts, your own opinions. If anything that we said, it just caused any kind of change in you or stimulated anything in you to leave a comment, leave your own thoughts.
Comment your biggest
We
takeaway
welcome it.
down below. What's the one biggest takeaway that you look
Yes.
to start implementing in your life and business?
Yes, absolutely. Give that takeaway. So, guys, thank you again for joining us on the foundation, and we'll see you next week.
All right, thank
Sure.
you. Thanks, Richard.